I first met you, didn't know a damn thing. Just set out and try to find my way. Didn't have no money, just a set of wheels and a whole lot of time to kill. I'll be rolling on a southern wind, cold and weather, the grip of the stone. Please leave your light on, in case I get back home before the dawn. Oh, my Delilah, don't you miss me when I go? Soon I'll be riding, trying to find my way back home. I first left you, all I wanted was to stay. 6 long months since I lost my way. Never saw it coming.
There we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, podcast fans of all ages. I'm Dave Valente. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. Joining me, as always, Dan the Man Fishman. What is up, Dan?
Not much. What's shaking with you, Dave?
I'm actually doing really well in your college basketball pool. There's a pathway to victory for me.
It's interesting because it's been a pretty predictable tournament.
Yes.
For most people, right? I mean, 1s and 2s all the way across, with the exception of Texas Tech, who was a 3. And now that we're in the Final Four, it's not shocking. I'll be interested to see, though, what happens next week, because we've got a few people. I don't think I can win, because we're in the 16 points for each game in the next round and 32 points in the final. Whoever gets the winner is going to win.
Yeah, and between myself, the guy that's winning right now is also, he picked Auburn. I've picked Duke. If Duke wins, I should win it. But if not, then I'm okay with that.
Well, but there's also another Duke team ahead of you.
There is, but I think he didn't pick one of his final 2 teams didn't make it. So I think he picked someone else to play Duke.
Oh, right. You're right. He has Michigan State in the final game. I thought he had Florida in. So, you got a shot.
I picked all 8 of the 8 teams, and I got all but one of the Final 4 teams. So I'm doing all right.
I mean, I honestly, I don't remember a time when 4 1s made it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that alone is unusual.
Also joining us is Joe Solosky. Joe, good to have you back, brother.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. And tonight we are talking with leaders of the Liberal Party USA, and kind of getting what's going on with the Liberal Party and how they're, how they're growing. Some of their state organizations. We've got joining us from Pennsylvania, a past guest. I think she's probably been on the show more than any other singular guest, and that's Jennifer Moore. Jen, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm glad that it's baseball season. I am not.
It is baseball season, and it was nice because my Yankees are crushing it right now.
Oh, you're Yankees? Why?
Yeah, but their bats are funny. They're using funny bats. Have you read?
They were. But
But
They just ruled today that those bats are legal.
Really?
so
Yep.
my whole
Major League Baseball did.
my whole
They-
team was doing March Madness stuff at work last week, though, but I missed all of it because I was at a healthcare financial management association summit. So I get to like miss all of the basketball festivities. But
Interesting.
Sounds
I mean,
scintillating.
the
I mean,
weirdest
I
thing.
did actions at the summit though, so it was worth it.
The weirdest thing is that, right, 3 days in, I think, into the baseball season, and the Mets have been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. So,
With all the money that they spent, which is crazy.
exactly.
And joining us as well, Dr. Peter Everett from Massachusetts, the state chair of the Massachusetts Liberal Party. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. And I call shenanigans on the Yankees. They are deflating the tips of their bats, putting less wood at the tip and more wood at the label. And this is clearly, shenanigans.
Without question, they're different bats. They're using different bats that were scientifically designed to hit better.
So I've for many decades, I've practiced martial arts with a physics professor from NYU. I haven't seen him many decades, actually. Many years I haven't seen him. Richard Brand. He used to be on the David Letterman show, and he was a consultant for sporting goods companies on how to make their bats, send the ball further.
Yeah.
And he gave one of our colleagues in the Taekwondo group a bat that was for softball, because he was an avid softball player. And this bat was absolutely not legal.
The bats are juiced.
It was a juiced bat. He had a special juiced softball bat.
I can't let myself get upset about bats. I'm still like struggling over the zombie runners, and like they just like are changing too many things.
Oh yeah. Well, they have got rid of the. Did they get rid of the extra inning, extra runner?
I don't know.
Yeah. I know that was a COVID thing, and I don't know if they've.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, my husband.
I hope so.
My husband is, completely upset about the designated hitter because he's a National League guy. And,
I mean, that's.
I came from America.
I'm pretty sure the DH is here to stay.
Yeah.
So too. He says.
Yeah.
Baseball. He's a traditionalist.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Well, let's start talking about the Liberal Party, and let's actually, because I think liberal is such a loaded term in American politics because it doesn't really comport with any other international version of the word liberal. If you go to Australia, the Liberals are actually the conservative party in that country. Liberal in Europe means much more of what we have become accustomed to as more of a libertarian idea of socially liberal attitudes, socially staying out of the bedroom and staying out of the boardroom, that type of normal limited government interference.
Well, the term liberal came out of the Enlightenment. People like Locke and Voltaire, who spoke about liberal values in the way that people today talk about something, talk about libertarianism. Now we can talk about how the word libertarian has been dragged through the mud lately, but so I mean, liberal was birthed out of the Enlightenment and is really a core principle of everything that is American in our founding documents and our founding, the Declaration, the Constitution. Liberal means you let people live their lives the way they see fit, provided they respect the rights of other people. And that's liberal. And that was a very, very revolutionary idea, in the late 1600s, early 1700s, and late 1700s. So
I would say that it's still a radical idea to let people make their choices. I mean, we're seeing right now the rise of authoritarianism. We now have more authoritarian governments in the world than we do liberal democracies. Even if, depending on the economic system that they have, at least one that purports to elect its government and not succumb to what we're seeing with our current government. But yeah, the idea of liberalism as a political philosophy and a guiding principle of governments is still a radical idea to me. Like I think that we've got many wannabe kings. We got many
It's a
wannabe.
radical idea for the planet.
Yeah.
Prior to the American Revolution, 99% of the world lived under the rule of a monarch, emperor, whatever. There was, the right of kings. It was rulership was passed down hereditarily or right of might, but then kings ruled and people were servants. So, the idea of liberty and, liberal has as its root libre, the same as liberty, the idea of freedom. It is in the history of just the brief time that, civilized humans with language have walked the earth. We're a very blip of that period of time.
Yeah. Now, all five of us are refugees of our political ex-wife, the Libertarian Party.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, essentially. But Jen, talk about your journey, because I know you have had a arduous journey from your days as state party chair of the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania to today.
Because I left the Libertarian Party at the time that the Keystone Party of Pennsylvania was founded, and I ran their first meeting for them. I gave them a ballot access plan, and then I stepped away to focus on working on my doctoral degree, my career, my kids' scouts, all the other things that I do. And it's interesting because a lot of colleagues were really angry with me because they said, you're taking a break and you're not taking a break now. But I really did take a break. I've been mostly out of it for a couple of years. I've been in chat groups, I've been advising, but I've not been on the board. I did kind of quietly come back about a year ago, around the time that Keystone Party decided to change its name to Liberal and join National. And then after this November election, I just went to them and said, you know what, like, I'm ready to get back involved. And they're like, you would be a great chair, that's the deal. So we are. But, I will say that the name is always the very first thing that people ask us about, right? Like, I mean, people love it or they hate it. And I will say that we did an incredible amount of market research with really intelligent people. We found that people under 40 really respond positively to the name. The older people get, maybe they don't, but those people are kind of set in their political journey anyway. And we don't really know that we're going to be able to change their mind. When we talk about liberalism, we're not referring to progressivism. And I think that's what people conflate it with. But we're specifically talking about the philosophy of individual rights, civil liberties, democracy, free enterprise, and just, being open to other ideas. And our tentpole issue is immigration. Our members have different feelings all the way from, wide open borders to Ellis Island, but we do believe that there should be a legal path, to come here. Should not be as hard as it is, and we believe that immigrants add more to our society than they ever take.
And they should be, they should be afforded due process.
Yes, that is. I mean, due process is an American value. I mean,
it's a human right.
Right. I mean, it's something that, watching things come, the things that are coming out in the news are just horrifying to all of us, which, really is a good transition into our upcoming summit.
Yeah.
And some of the ideas there, because we had originally planned to do a lot of, just traditional, like activism type training, ballot access, and social media marketing. But we've been looking at the political climate on the ground and thinking, maybe that's not the kind of activism training that we need. Right now we need resistance training. And we've kind of shifted, the thought of, what kind of speakers and trainers that we're going to bring in to be more in the light of that type of training, how to contact your Congress people, how to, go and speak, at political hearings, your legal rights. I don't know exactly who all will have there. I've missed the past couple of planning meetings. How to write a letter to the editor that's going to get published. All of these really important things, how to, organize a protest rally. At this point in this country, we don't really have an opposition party, and it's really painful to all of us at Liberal that we're still so small that we can't be that opposition to the authoritarianism that's happening. And of course, I'll let Pete jump in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we're responding to is a hole that has opened up in the political landscape, because both the two incumbent parties, as many people have observed, are succumbing to their worst illiberal tendencies, right? The illiberalism of the left is, this censoriousness that we saw around COVID and that sort of thing. And then the illiberalism of the right, of course, is we see that coming out in immigration and stuff like tariffs, stuff that the right, political right would never have gone along with in the past. And so, everyone is succumbing to these illiberal impulses, and there's a space that has opened up for people who just believe in, common sense, liberal American values. Let people live, let people work, let people trade, let people come, and just let people do their thing. And so, in Massachusetts, there is a struggle right now. I'm not going to, pretend things are great, better than they are, but, a lot of people are struggling with the word liberal, and I hear I see Sean in the comments is saying, there's nothing wrong with the term liberal that can't be solved by preceding it with the word classical, right? So a lot of state organizations have tried to cure the questions that mostly older people have about, as Jenn pointed out, about the word liberal by adding classical liberal. Now, I have a problem. My problem with classical liberal is classical. I think of classical as backwards looking. Classical music, is like, the bust of Beethoven, and so I think that we are not backwards looking. A lot of people. One of the movement for liberty movement, has many vices. And I think we're all familiar with some of these vices. One of the vices is this yearning, this looking backwards at a golden age. Like there was a time, maybe in the 1890s, maybe when
Make America great again.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like make America great. That somehow there was this golden age and we strayed from it, and we have to go back to it. I'm sorry. The world has changed. We have moved on from that. We are looking forwards. There's no going back. And the Liberal Party, I think, represents a way of going forwards, and a need to go forwards with liberal values in hand.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree or disagree that the idea of classical, like, to me, I think liberal is liberal, and I think we, the problem is that it's the term has been bastardized in the United States when it comes to
it's not for FDR,
but even progressivism, the idea.
That word.
Well, I think the idea of progressivism even has been bastardized in the United States because, yes, liberal ideals are progressive because they foster progress. I wouldn't, say we're liberal and progressive, because I think in the United States it gives a lot of people the wrong idea. But I don't have a problem with just going with liberal. I think the idea of re-educating people on what liberalism is and what it stands for is a worthy fight when it comes to
we do have
politics.
two state affiliates that go by classical liberal, I believe, New Hampshire and Virginia. But we did market research on this as well. I mean, we have some brilliant strategists, and we have some of the best third-party activists in the country involved in this party. And we found having a two-word name just, it kind of, sets you in the minor leagues. And, we're hoping to grow beyond that. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to condense it to liberal. But again, the National Party does not lean on the state parties. We very often refer to ourselves as Keystone Liberal, just to help people through the transition to know that, because 2 years ago Joe was running for governor under Keystone. So
yeah.
Well, and let's face it, our platform hasn't really changed. I think we are right in lockstep with what liberal is, the National Liberal Party is today. I've never had a problem with classical liberal, but I do see the merit to us wanting to reclaim, redefine, put a different spotlight on the general word liberal. Most people have never even looked up the term, and when they do, they'd be surprised to see the definition. Yeah. I do like mentioning classical liberal in the context that, hey, this party, we are your founding fathers in this country. Those people were by term classical liberals. They wanted small government. They wanted minimal taxation. They wanted us to be able to make our own decisions.
Simply government of, by, and for the people.
Yes. And we've gotten so far away from that. You can't trust the Republicans or the Democrats. No. As Peter said, there's this wonderful void or niche that has opened up for us to fill. It's going to take some work, but it's going to be a lot of fun work.
Yeah. So let's talk about the founding of the parties, because both of these parties have come over, and we alluded to it earlier, from our days as being libertarian. And you, Jen, you talked about the Keystone Party, and now you're the Keystone Libertarian, or Keystone Liberals, or Liberal Party. So talk a little bit more about that founding, and then Peter, we'll talk about how the Massachusetts group founded.
Yeah. I mean, we were coming out of libertarianism, and the party the philosophy was completely different than what we joined for, right? I mean, everyone here knows how the Libertarian Party shifted far right. And we just, but all of us believe in political solutions, and none of us are anarchists who believe in no government. We believe that some government makes you more free, and that there needs to be rule of law, right? So, I got involved in politics myself because I didn't want my kids to live through a civil war. So when my party was talking about things like national divorce, it was making me really uncomfortable. We've talked at length on this show about the list of liabilities why I left. But as we came over, I feel like we really brought some of our best and brightest. But the biggest struggle of having a brand new party is just the lack of data. Like, how do you find your membership? How do you find the people that align with your values? We have about 1,000 registered liberals in Pennsylvania, but we don't know of those 1,000 people that they really define liberal the same way that we do at this point. So our goal this year is to run a statewide judge candidate. Dan Lossner is going to run for Superior Court, because those statewide races do generate data. I mean, that's how you pull in volunteers. And everyone here who knows me knows I'm a local elections person. Like, I want to go out there and win 250 small elections.
And she's done it before.
Yeah, I have. We have a few people who will be on the ballot in those, but we're putting most of our resources into that statewide race because we think it's really important to have that voter registration checkbox, and to drive people to register, sign up for the party, so that we can get some of those county affiliates going. It's been a couple of years and we haven't I mean, we've grown, but we haven't grown a lot larger from where we started a few years ago. But part of that has been putting, time and energy into the national party. We have 12 affiliates right now. We have many more in the wings who are looking to join up. So if you're, looking to start a Liberal Party affiliate, you can do it with as 3 people. You're just going to need to put together bylaws, and they have to be approved by national. But we can walk you through it. Please just reach out if you're interested and you're in a state that doesn't have an affiliate yet. There's probably already people there who are thinking about it, because we've had most of the states contact us. I think it's going to grow quickly around the nation. I mean, really, we came to a point where we're having a hard time keeping up with the number of requests. So, we'll be there before you know it.
Well, I think and we'll talk about Massachusetts here in a second, but I think the party is in a good position in the fact that of what has happened with the Libertarian Party and how it's really imploded through grift and embezzlement and all the fun things that's happened to that party over the last 3 years. And
I will say one of the things that we don't want to import is libertarian culture. If you come to one of our events, we are not going to argue about bylaws on the floor.
You're not going to do Rona?
We have a knife fight over Robert's rules. Like we don't do that. If we have an affiliate that goes crazy, they can be voted off the island by a 51% vote. So we have lots of anti-takeover provisions in
Rona.
because we've learned our lesson, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, in reality, we welcome libertarians, but we're not necessarily trying to, we're not necessarily trying to recruit them at this point. Anybody who's politically homeless, who believes in our liberal values, and we talk about values a lot because we think that values are more important than principles. Honestly, that's what we always talk about as libertarians, with our principles, right? We believe in finding people who share values.
Well, and the other piece of good things, not really good things, because we desperately need something to butt up against what is going on in Washington, D.C. right now. But Democrats have really just almost abandoned their responsibilities to be the opposition party. And so there's an opportunity to have a party that speaks truth to power.
I mean, it's interesting to say that they've abandoned their idea to be the opposition party, because what they're doing is not government, right? The job of a political party, and even if you were to say the party of opposition, isn't to say no to everything. Part of things that people found very objectionable, perhaps the most objectionable thing about Mitch McConnell, was that he said his primary job was to make sure that Barack Obama would be a one-term president. That isn't being the party of opposition. That's being the party of oppositional, right? Yeah. Where I am setting my line in the sand, and I'm not going to work together ever to do anything good. And what's interesting about the idea of classical liberal is that you're not bound by that. You don't have to say, I'm going to be a party of opposition. And the Democrats aren't really a party of opposition. They're a party of power, just like the Republicans have become a party of power. And all they want is power and to not share it.
Sure.
And what is their quickest path to that?
Dan, it's so hard to watch them shrug and say they control the government. What are we supposed to do? It's like,
right.
You're supposed to do your job, right? That's what we elected you for.
Right.
So Peter talked about the founding of the Massachusetts Party and how that came about.
Well, as of today, we are the Libertarian Association of Massachusetts. That's our name. And we, from the 70s until June 4th, 2022, we were the state affiliate of the National Libertarian Party. And then, of course, as many of us know, our duly elected delegation was not seated at the Reno Convention, and the AstroTurf MAGA delegation was seated instead. And so at that point, we had no choice but to leave. So And of course, as you know, the other thing that happened was the National Libertarian Party made it clear that their values had diverged from the values that people in Massachusetts hold dear. So we were just a state organization until my predecessor, under the leadership of Chris Thrasher, we became an affiliate of the National Liberal Party. And we have an upcoming convention at the end of April in which we're going to be asking our Libertarian Association of Massachusetts members a few questions, one of which is, do you want to change your name away from Libertarian so that we can distinguish ourselves as an affiliate of the National Liberal Party? And of course, the other question is, do we want to be an affiliate of the National Liberal Party? Because right now, this is something that the state committee has done without the ratification of the members. So the members will need to ratify this, both our continued affiliation and a name change. If the members do that at our convention at the end of April, great. If they don't, there will still be a Liberal Party affiliate in Massachusetts, but it will be, not starting with the membership of LAMA, but will be, starting from those of us, my wife Christine in particular, and I, who will create the political designation and under the Secretary's office and move forward from there.
Oh, that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the summit coming up in Houston at the end of, or on Memorial Day weekend. So what is we talked a little bit about kind of the changing nature of what's going to be taught there, but so let's talk about that. What's going to happen in Houston on Memorial Day weekend?
I think it's going to be a great event. They're going to start with a private tour of the Space Center in Houston. There's plans to have some kind of a community project. They're going to have a gala, and then lots of training and speakers surrounding immigration, LGBTQ rights, the things that are really under fire by the current administration. So I think it's going to be a great time, for anybody who can make it. It's in the Marriott right there. If you fly in, there's actually like a little tram that takes you right to the hotel. It's like 2 stops. So everything's right there. We were there for our convention in December. So great venue. And like I said, it's not going to be the type of meeting where, you're going to be arguing over, the minutia of Roberts. It's going to be more camaraderie, learning, and just a lot of really fun things in addition. I don't know, Peter, do you have anything to add?
So no, I don't have anything to add. I'll be honest, I haven't been part of the discussions of the planning of the May summit. But one thing I know is that based on the December convention that we had, it's a lot of really good people, and one of the things that we do put front and center is our values. The values, what it means to be a liberal and to hold liberal values. And there are lots of different ways people arrive at a philosophy of liberty. One way is through this notion of natural rights, sort of a John Locke framework or a Declaration of Independence framework, where you say you've got rights to life, liberty, and property. That's one way. Other ways to come is through, some people have come to the movement through objectivism and all of that. The Liberal Party has put front and center human dignity as the bedrock principle upon which we regard liberty as essential. And I think that is something that has set us apart. especially from what I would call the propertarian framework of people who have drifted away, who have found an attraction to people like Hans Hermann Hoppe, who is, very property oriented. Yeah, I know. The nausea kicks in right away. But so, because if you don't hold the equal dignity of all people as a core value, then any notion of liberty that you try to build on top of whatever, like self-ownership. Some people think, oh, liberty comes from self-ownership, right? I own myself, I own the products of my labor, and so forth and so on. What that leaves out is, or what leaves open is the question of, does everyone have the same worthiness that you have? And clearly people who have gone down the propertarian route have said, well, actually, those foreigners, maybe they don't have the same rights that I have, and that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. I mean, there is a call for the idea of human dignity. The government we see right now is one that places a premium on being almost as cruel as it can be. That it's, it will deport somebody without due process, that it will take away, and say what you want to about Social Security or Medicare, Medicaid, anything like that. But things that people rely on, they're more than willing to rip those away. And people like Elon Musk or Donald Trump don't feel it because they're billionaires. Like there's no impact to their daily lives. But when I live in West Virginia, and some of the highest use of federal benefits in the country, and the idea that they're going to strip these programs, or the idea of empathy being a bad thing.
Yes, think of that.
I mean, that to me is just perverse in a government.
I think it was Hannah Arendt who has a rather pithy quote about empathy in her writings on totalitarianism. She said, when the society loses its empathy, totalitarianism is not far behind.
I'm very, very concerned about the cuts in my career being in healthcare revenue cycle. And I work for a children's hospital. So, 50% of our population is on Medicaid. And these are kids with cancer. These are kids with rare diseases. These are kids that if you cut that off are not going to get the treatment they need. In addition, 80% of the children's therapies currently being used in the world are developed at my hospital in our research facilities. If you cut the funding to that, it will cost lives. I mean, these are things that, absolutely are going to affect people. And I'm just kind of watching in horror because healthcare revenue cycle is really difficult right now. We have between inflation and staffing and, just our reimbursement has been lower and lower. There's been more cost sharing with higher deductibles. And insurance companies fighting us. It's really becoming hard to finance providing care. And then you hear about these big federal cuts, and something from my old party. They probably would have rolled their eyes to hear me saying that, but like I see in real time the human suffering that it's going to cause if they. I mean, 50% of the children in the country are on Medicaid. It's not just my area.
Yeah, and just thinking of everybody on who's in a nursing home. I mean, in West Virginia, if you release everybody who's in a nursing home back to their homes, I mean, their family homes, or if they can find family, that it's not going to get much better for them. I'll guarantee it's going to get a whole lot worse for them.
Yeah, I also work at a safety net hospital. I'm an oncologist treating cancer patients, and Jenn is right. Indiscriminate cutting of these programs without regard to who's being hurt is going to cause lives. I have patients, and I don't know what their immigration status is, but they may not speak English, and they're coming for their cancer treatments, and some of them are afraid to come to their cancer treatments. Can you imagine?
One thing that I want to say about that is that I worked when my kids were babies, when I'd stepped down from management, I worked as a financial counselor in an emergency room. And the Hispanic population would show up, all of them would show up with $20, and they would all pitch in as a community until that person's medical bill was paid. I mean, I had never seen anything like it. They pay their medical bills. And Americans, if you don't get that copay up front, you've got about a 30% chance of actually collecting. I mean, that's a real statistic.
There's an interesting thing, too, in terms of the reality of costs, that if people aren't coming to their regular appointments that can be doing the most for them, they're going to end up with emergency costs, which are so greatly exacerbated.
Yeah.
So sometimes an ounce of prevention really is worth a pound of cure.
More than a pound.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I mean,
And
emergency room visit in most hospitals, just to start for a level 1, is 15 times more than a PCP visit. I look at numbers all day. I crunch them. That's what I do. So it's the difference between paying $100 versus $1,500 or $2,000.
Right.
I'll add this. I think the whole empathy element is what makes us the society we are. The integrity that we have is rooted in our empathy for others. Now, that being said, anytime we talk about, hey, we want small government, I think there is a way to be able to look at various programs, any of them, and try to find ways to make them more efficient, more cost savings. There's a right way to do it. And it has to be done carefully and slowly. You can't just start randomly slashing, cutting, firing like Trump and Doge are trying to do now. But I'm just trying to make the point that there is some latitude. There's a little wiggle room to actually look at programs and say, all right, great example. Sometime about 3-4 years ago, there was a great story out saying under the Biden administration that 87,000 new IRS auditors were going to be hired. And I'm thinking, oh, God grief, 87,000. You don't need auditors. You need them in customer service. Try to get a phone call through to these people. It's painful. But again, as soon as I heard they were cutting, I'm thinking, well, there's probably a great first place. Why don't you look at the IRS, maybe eliminate those 87,000 that probably weren't needed in the first place? If you look at things carefully and with empathy, you can still provide benefits that people desperately need while still cutting and trimming and making government smaller.
So talking about the many hats that I wear, I'm an elected auditor serving my second 6-year term. So I actually am, a government auditor, and what's happening in no way resembles an audit. I also, in healthcare revenue cycle, AI initiatives are, a huge part of what we're doing right now. Looking at, AI for claims, for mail sorting, there's all sorts of applications. So I also, I'm not like our IT people do, but in management, I have been in a lot of meetings and I have a pretty good inkling of, what AI can do. And what they're using it for, it's one of those things, people talk about Elon Musk, right? And they think he's brilliant until he touches on something that they actually have knowledge of. I actually have knowledge of in AI applications, and now I can tell you that I don't trust his cars or his rockets either.
That was so beautifully said, Jenn. Well done.
Well, Jenn, what you just said is kind of a corollary of the Gell-Mann amnesia phenomenon coined by Michael Crichton. You read a story in the news and about something that you actually have firsthand knowledge, and you realize that half the story is wrong. And then you read another story in the news where you don't have any first-hand knowledge, and you assume that everything's right, and you forget that half of it was wrong when you knew the story, and now you're thinking that everything is okay when you don't. No, it's not okay.
Yeah, it's been horrifying to watch as auditor myself, because that in no way resembles an audit. And I mean, it's ready, fire, aim. And as you can see, from the fact checking and data, a lot of what they're putting out is wrong. It's propaganda. I mean, they say that we're living in the post-truth era, and we are.
We are, absolutely.
And I personally was a little offended in the past week that I wasn't invited to their Signal chat.
The funny thing about it is libertarians are responsible for Republicans using Signal, because we were using Signal long beforehand, and we introduced the idea of secure comms to them. So in many ways, I think we should take credit for that. I just want to push back a little bit on one thing. AI will get there.
It will, yes.
Yeah. I used it for something I never used it before today, and if you know what I mean, this is going to resonate really strongly. We used AI for a referee for a Magic the Gathering game, and it was fantastic. It was so good. I posted something about it on my Facebook wall. You should look at it. You should look at the conversation that we had. So good. And that's an example of, that sort of legal wrangling is very compact, but it's going to get better and better at it.
It is going to get better and better. You know what I use it for most is working on a doctorate. I will take, a peer-reviewed source, and I will pop it into ChatGPT, and I'll say, summarize this. And then I can read that one paragraph, and I can decide if it's worth wasting my time on. Because when you're writing a dissertation, you need 100 sources, right? And rather than going and reading like the whole 30, 40, 50 page document, I mean, I don't know how people got through doctoral school without it, because it's been such a huge, now I can't trust what it gives me, right? I actually have to go read the article, but it is usually enough for me to say, this is not going to, this study is not going to be pertinent to my actual research. And so I can kind of discard some of them and then, cherry pick. So
it is going to be fascinating. In medical billing too. Mm-hmm. The other thing about it, is that as we see the large learning language models come online, you're going to get a feeling for what billing models should be looking like. And there's going to be exceptions along the way, but as AI starts to understand that, I think it's going to be really powerful in terms of impact. And I hate to say it with Dr. Everett on the line, but I know a couple Epic developers, and it's really interesting to see. For a long time, they were pretty upfront about it. The real thing that Epic wanted to do was identify people who were being underserviced because of the quality of their insurance, and find procedures that could be recommended, saying, well, there's every reason for, this happened to me. They said there's every reason for Dan Fishman to get an ICD, and it was an implantable cardiovascular device. And I was lucky enough to have a great doctor at Mass General, the guy who was actually head of pulmonary. And he's like, I've listened to your chest for the last 10 years. This doesn't seem to make any sense to me. And I'm like, and then I was talking to another group of friends, and they're like, wait a minute. He's like, do they do the halter test? Is where you wear this thing? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, you're a fat guy. Don't you have sleep apnea? And I'm like, yes. He's like, sleep apnea invalidates the halter test. He's like, were your bad times at 2:00 in the morning? I'm like, yes. He's like, oh, well, that's no good. So that's where the problems are. But I do believe that as we get more models and stuff like that, it's going to get a lot better. But 100% now, it's not where anybody on the Doge team says that it is.
No, it's not. Right now, the practical application is not anywhere near. But I am using it for some really neat stuff. I think that it's going to help us find missed modifiers, and it's going to help us clean things up pre-adjudication. I mean, I'm just really excited about it sorting my mail and saying this is an approval, this is denial, so that I don't have to pay somebody, all of that money to do that, and have them commute into the office. That way my team can focus on more interesting and complex work. Have the AI do the simple stuff.
But Jen, what you're noticing is that it's leveraging your abilities, right? When one person can do the work of 10, what do the other 9 people do, right? When one person with an AI assistant does the work of 10, 9 people need new jobs.
I'll tell you what's going to happen in my hospital is we're going to stop our outsourcing to so many vendors, and we'll just keep it internal, and we'll save that cost.
I want to respond to something in the chat here. James Savina says, I don't know what party I am supposed to be, but I don't care if you are rich, poor, black, white, male, female, gay, straight, born here, came here by letting us know people are people. It's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
It's so simple. People are people.
Absolutely.
Once you just say people are people, it becomes easy.
Yep.
And that's what
it's so true. But I have found it amazing when I have engaged, be it on Twitter or on Facebook, and I'm going to say primarily with Trump people. And when I point out, there should be a great avenue for them to come here, to become U.S. citizens, to work here. My gosh, the vitriol that you run into and the pushback that so many people have, it's discouraging. It isn't at all what I would call American. That's for sure.
There's an interesting concept around this organization out of California, the Foundation for Harmony and Prosperity. And they focus on one thing. They say it's only about respect. And it's about having a level of respect for another person that you allow them to be right or wrong or whatever, but that you have a level of respect for them. And by encouraging that level of respect, that's where we get to all the other stuff. And it is a very interesting thing because I was talking about this. I have, a friend that Peter knows, a woman named Heather, who is, I like to say, formerly the libertarian daughter that I never had. Now she's gone deep off the MAGA end. But we still talk, right? I mean,
very deep.
I'm not, huh?
I think you said very deep.
Off the MAGA end.
Yeah, very, very deep. Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, she refers to Fox as those communists. But we still talk. I think some of us here are parents. When your child does something that's crazy, the answer is not to yell at them and berate them and stuff like that. You don't ever get them back that way. Mm-hmm. And so in a conversation that I was having with someone recently, she said, Dan, you're the only person, and I know this is not true, I know other people do as well, but you're the only person who treats me with respect, even if you think what I'm saying is crazy. And I know you think what I'm saying is crazy. And I'm like, well, I wouldn't say crazy, but it is, and it's hard because it's so frustrating. How do we deal with the people who are saying the craziest shit? It's
not based in facts at all.
It's right, exactly. It's so difficult. I saw, I posted this on Facebook as well today. Dr. Mike did Surrounded By, and he was surrounded by 20 anti-vaxxers. And if you're not familiar with Dr. Michael Shakespeare, he's a DOM in New Jersey, family practice, smart guy, charismatic, does a lot of really good service via his YouTube channel. But these 20 anti-vaxxers were just crazy. I don't understand how they can be that way, but I also don't understand how we can find a solution if we can't figure out a way to at least live in harmony together.
Exactly. And Dan, you make a great point. I think when I talk to many of these people, sometimes it's frustrating and it is difficult, I find,
Yep.
to respect them.
Yep.
Because they're so far off the deep end, and we don't have a lot of common ground whatsoever. And if we, as you said, if we all could just put people first, it would smooth out a lot of these speed bumps that are keeping us from each other. So I don't think there's an easy solution, but boy, I hear what you're saying.
Well, and I mean, to sort of bring the circle all the way around, I think that's where Project Liberal and Liberal Party USA, within the Project Liberal Foundation, that's where they have a window into other people, that people are allowed to look in and see Project Liberal, and you can look out and see the other people that none of the other parties have right now, because Republicans are forbidden from respecting Democrats, and Democrats are forbidden from respecting Republicans. There's
Nailing it.
we talked about this last time, but it's very interesting to see some Democrats try to break away. You see Gavin Newsom and Seth Moulton starting to talk a little bit about saying the Democrats have gone too far. They're unwilling to compromise. They staked out positions that are, they don't say politically untenable, they say something more polite. But what they mean is politically untenable. We're not going to win. And it's interesting. I was talking with Seth Moulton, used to be my representative when I lived in Massachusetts. He defeated an 8-term incumbent Democrat in the primary to get elected. He is a decorated serviceman, Harvard Business School graduate. He's the full package. And people are starting to talk about, you should run for president. And he actually ran an exploratory campaign in 2020. And what they proved was he could raise a lot of money as a Harvard Business School grad, but he could not get any traction at all in the Democratic Party, even though he's incredibly qualified, because the party is about the party, and it's not about the people or the politics or any of that stuff. Republicans, right? I mean, when's the last time you saw an honest Republican, somebody we would call a Reagan Republican, or I dare say a Goldwater Republican, have any chance of standing up against the forces of evil?
Well, I mean, you've got a few, but they've been kicked to the curb. I mean, they're persona non grata within the Republican Party. Like, I don't think that they're coming back at all. So, yes, the Liberal Party does have a path to. Oh, sorry about your battery, Jen. So if you,
I got it. That's why it was moving all around.
And yes, Dr. Everett, you sound great.
Yeah,
battery was dying. I was like, how do I plug it in?
But yeah, I mean, there is. I do want to touch on one thing, because you're both healthcare professionals in different spheres of healthcare. The biggest issue that we've had in the last 5 years has been COVID and the government reaction to COVID. And Jen, you've had even more personal issues when it comes to COVID and the response to it. I mean, I think one of the greatest sins of what happened with COVID after COVID is that we have not sat down and talked about the government response to COVID and our personal responses to COVID, and because things are going to happen again. We're increasingly global society, and we've seen other things, including bird flu and other things that are popping up and getting into that pandemic field. Plus, the reticence towards vaccines that we see in various communities. Well, I mean, talk about where the liberals stand on vaccines and healthcare freedom and things like that.
Who are you posing
So
that to?
I think I could speak to that.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, it's not that hard. If you as a practicing physician, one of the things I say to my patients very often is, I don't know. Right? If you don't know something, say you don't know. People think that will make them scared. They won't trust you. No. That if you're honest about what you know and what you don't know, people will trust you more. Now, the other thing is, when you do know, or when you think you know, say how you know. I think this treatment will help you because when 1,000 people got this treatment, 500, and another 1,000 got the other treatment, the 1,000 that got it did better, and this is how they did better. So say what you know, say what you don't know, and then show your work, right? So it's a question to show your work. If you show your work, if you're honest and upfront about what you know and what you don't know, if you think something will help but you're not sure, say so. This is how confident I am that it will help. These are the risks. Nothing is absolute. Everything's a risk balance equation. As Thomas Sowell said, there are no solutions. There are only trade-offs.
You make great points, and not enough politicians do exactly what you're saying. How many times does a politician get posed with a question from A to Z, and they always respond like they must have an answer, and you can tell they don't know a darn. They would be much further ahead to say, I'm not sure. Let me get back to you on that.
Yeah. In fact, when one of the trainings I give at work is when you're doing a presentation and somebody from leadership says, "Hey, what about this?" You don't know the answer. Say, "I don't know. I'll get back to you on it. I'll provide an answer by certain period, close of business or whatever." Because the worst thing you can do is give an answer and it be wrong. And then everything that you say to that person from then on is going to be clouded with some kind of suspicion of whether you're just pulling that directly out of your ass.
Right. And what we saw during COVID was our public officials saying they knew things that they did not know, outright lying, as we now know. There's never been they justify it by saying, it was a noble lie. It was a well-intentioned lie. No, I'm sorry. That doesn't fly.
Nope.
And they have contributed to the mistrust generally of our institutions to deal with people fairly and honestly. And it's an own goal that never needed to happen, right? It's a self-inflicted injury, and it's going to end up hurting people down the line. Now you have this unbelievable shyster of RFK Jr.
Jesus.
He's a one-trick pony. Basically what he does is he goes in front of juries and just throws FUD. Everyone, does everyone know what FUD is?
Fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Fear, uncertainty, doubt. So he FUDs the crap out of some product, some emissions of some factory. I mean, and not that I'm defending pollution, but he will FUD a vaccine. He will FUD a drug, and until he finds a jury that gives a massive award of which he gets some fraction. So that's his shtick.
The other thing that's worth mentioning,
he monetizes FUD.
Yeah,
that's his job.
Is that until 2023, when he started running for president, he was getting paid $20,000 a week by his anti-vaccine foundation.
Yeah.
So it was worth a lot of money for him to promote that sort of hysteria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
and
we saw that monetized FUD.
Yeah. We saw this week him. It was, I think, Friday night here in Martinsburg, West Virginia, just south of me, and where he attacked essentially the governor of West Virginia and body shamed him for,
I saw that.
it's just crazy. Like they're turning on each other. And you know, and RFK Jr. is just, I mean, it boggles my mind that we've put somebody that is endangering people's health in the position that he's in right now as, you know, head of Health and Human Services. Like, it hurts my mind.
You can't make this stuff up.
I told my family last week while I was in North Carolina that it's like we're being governed by Scooby-Doo villains. Like every one of them, like you just pull the mask off of them. I would have gotten away with it. It wasn't for you veteran liberals.
I just want to come out and say that I am a huge proponent of vaccines. I think that most people should get vaccinated. I think that you should talk to your doctor about it. And there's people who shouldn't get vaccinated for various medical reasons. I have been required to be vaccinated every year since 2001 when I started in the hospital. Vaccines, antibiotics, and sanitation are the trifecta that has given us the lifespans that we have now, right? During COVID, I lost my grandmother to COVID. The governor of Michigan locked my family out of my dad's care when he was institutionalized for a anoxic brain injury for 9 months. No government should ever be able to lock family out of someone's care when they can't advocate for themselves. I mean, it's really important to me in my life to make sure that nobody ever goes through what we went through again. But at the same time, it was so frustrating to see people act like they were freedom fighters because they wouldn't wear a mask in Target during a respiratory pandemic. Like, really? Like, yeah. I mean, I just, the extreme anti-vax narrative, on the other side of that, at the time, I worked for a very large nationwide physician group. And being in the position that I'm in, I see tens of thousands of medical charts. So I had, data about why people were seeing their doctors. And I'm telling you, it wasn't just the ICU stays. The long COVID was devastating. It was 40% of my inventory. It was nephrology. It was neurology. I mean, people were coming in for all of these things. I mean, I would assign my staff a pile of bankruptcies from people who could no longer work because they couldn't walk out to their mailbox, and catch their breath anymore. And they used to work in constructions to a pile of death certificates every morning. I mean, we would have meetings about, moving ventilators from Oklahoma to Texas. So especially my party's reaction to it, where they were just this really, don't tell me what to do. There was that human component of just taking precautions to take care of each other that people just didn't seem to care about. And I get it. Some of those ideas in retrospect were wrong. We should not have kept the kids out of school as long as we did. My daughter really struggled to, catch up and was in a Title I program because when it happened, she was a kindergartner. She missed that reading in first grade that, it took her a couple of years to catch up on.
The developmental delay of kids in schools and things like that. That's why I think, the greatest sin is that we haven't sat down and talked about what worked, what didn't work, next time this happens, what do we do?
Well, nobody ever say, Jen's a proponent of lockdowns. That's not the case. But I am a proponent of vaccines, right? I do think that if you're sick, you should wear a mask if you're going out.
And there was no place. Jenn is right on. There was no place for the rational metal, right? There was no place. I mean, I would have loved to have gone down to Beacon Hill and protest against mandates. But a vaccine mandate, is not obviously a liberal idea that people should have a choice. And
not only that, it clearly makes it worse.
Right. And when you mandate things, people don't understand why they're doing it. You need people who defy mandates to get sick, so that everyone else can see it's a good idea. So, I mean, it's a dark way of putting it, but there was no place for somebody who thinks that masks properly worn prevent giving and getting infections. There was no place for somebody who was against ridiculous mandates, but for vaccines, right? People don't understand that something can be good for you, but shouldn't be mandatory.
Right.
And people don't understand that something can be bad for you, but shouldn't be forbidden. Like, there's this whole two quadrants of the graph. You know, there's the 2x2 has two, unoccupied locations that people.
I had a conversation with a person who said that masks do no good at all. And I said, all right, here's the way that I propose that we test this. You and I are going to stand 3 feet away from each other and spit on each other, but you're going to wear a mask, and we'll see which is more effective. There's a great economic argument about how we did this wrong. And imagine if we had said we have the COVID vaccine out, but it costs $500. People would have been bullshit. They'd be like, what? How can you charge? Only the wealthy people can get it? And the people who could afford it would be getting it. And everybody else would be trying to find a way to get $500 so that they could get this rationed, exclusive thing. But because we made it available to everybody, then it was worthless.
If we just put the Apple symbol on it,
yeah,
and made it an eye vaccine, that would have had lines out the door.
So or maybe made it into a Beanie Baby somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
That's maybe
collect all the vaccines.
Well, I worked this thing out a little bit further, and I said, okay, well, let's just say that we were going to charge $500 for the vaccine for the, let's say, 300 million people in the United States that it made sense for, right? Okay, 300 million times 500, it's what, $50 billion? Amazon could have paid for that. You could get it with your Prime subscription. You get the vaccine, or
delivered to your door.
Exactly. They could have just paid for it and said, this is our gift to America. Thanks for all the money. Here's some help. But
one of the really cool things that I think came out of it is the fact that we do have these home tests now. There's also a home test for flu A and B now. I love the fact that I can, do that at home and know whether or not I have the flu.
And not go to a doctor's office. Like the worst place that, going to a outpatient clinic or something like that when you're sick or when you're actually taking a loved one there is probably the worst thing you can do. Because you're just.
Example of that. Like over the last few years of my career, we've had a couple of measles cases, right? They came from overseas, and they had measles, and they went and sat in our ER waiting room, and other people were exposed. And I got a whole list of what things that my team needed to write off for exposure because they walked into an ED and exposed, other people. So. Thankfully here in Pennsylvania, we've been able to, get on top of that very quickly. And anytime it's happened, it's been in the news. I'm not sharing any, industry secrets here. Like, we had one recently. But yeah, you go walk into an ED waiting room, emergency department. I'm being a healthcare person, ER for everybody else.
It is amazing
where you're exposing.
Exactly. Where telemedicine and where remote is right now. There's two really interesting things. One of the things that happened at the beginning of COVID, when everybody believed we were all going to die, is that people who didn't know any better criticized the American healthcare system for having so few emergency beds relative to other countries, not realizing that Americans understand the most dangerous place that you can be is a hospital. Unless you have to be there. And so our healthcare system is designed to get people out. The other one little interesting thing I'll say is that I just started talking to a friend of mine about a venture, because telemedicine is awesome right now. We're going to put together a series of Bluetooth devices because I am not a healthcare professional, but I've been healthcare adjacent for a lot of time. And one of the things that was really impressed upon me when I worked at the IHP, which is MGH's School of Allied Health, was how important vitals are. Taking vitals are so incredibly important. And that is something that's being lost in telemedicine. So we started building this little package of sensors that if you have a telemedicine health point, it ships out to you and does your blood pressure and records it on your phone, and it does your pulse and your oximeter, pulse ox, and all the other things. And I think that in general, people are going to have a better feeling for, look, this stuff isn't foreign. I'm actually responsible for my own health. I could take all these things even without buying that. I don't need to have something. I could do my pulse ox, or I could do whatever, my own blood pressure. I think Americans would be a lot healthier if every 3 months most people were taking their blood pressure.
Sure.
Anyway, my 2 cents on that.
Now, there's always the concerns with, the data security and everything of all these, remote, that's something that we talk about in my industry a lot. But I mean, I'll tell you that, because I worked we had about 1,500 doctors around the country. It was a nation, wide network. And we didn't have telehealth in most places because of the regulations around it. During COVID, my team was tasked with we need this last week. And it was a bear to get that up and running, but we did it. And within a few weeks, we had telehealth appointments. And we're still today, it's become very robust.
Yeah. So let's talk one more time about the New Frontier Summit before we do the quiz. So I'm posting that in the chat once more. So tell us about the New Frontier Summit. Jen or Peter, either one.
Peter, I feel like I've talked a lot. I guess I'm more in the meetings for the summit though than you are. So it's going to be a great time. I would encourage everybody to come out. I have not booked my tickets yet. I'm kind of, back and forth. My kids want to go camping. But if I see a lot of you guys are coming, I may, change my mind and, come on
I
down.
unfortunately am booked on Memorial Day weekend. But
yeah, Memorial Day is a tough time, but it's going to be so much fun because and based on, just like Peter said, based on what we had in December, when you walk into that room and you recognize some of the best and the brightest political activists, from various third-party venues, a lot of old friends, a lot of new friends. It was just really great to see everybody. And it felt like some of those conventions that used to be fun, back 2016, 2017.
The best thing about the movement.
When there was a lot of camaraderie, and I think that's what we're going to see. And you know what? Even if you are not thinking about joining the Liberal Party or you're not sure, please, consider coming down to the event, even just for a day, because, this is not any kind of obligation. We're not handing you any kind of work. This is just to come down and, be with people who share our values about human rights, human dignity, and are concerned about the direction of the country.
That's spot on, Jen. If you feel like your party, whatever your party is, right? I think, a lot of us feel that our previous party kind of left us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And a lot of people who used to be Democrats or used to be Republicans also feel like their party left them, right? And if you feel like your party has left you, come see what we're about, because I think you'll find that a lot of the things they left you about, we still have. So,
yes.
Yeah,
I'd go further and say we are the true liberty and dignity political point in this country. People who are politically homeless, there's a home here for them, and we will welcome you with open arms.
And this will not, politics is often very stressful. It's often arguments. That is not what this event will be. I mean, I can guarantee you that it's not going to be a stressful situation.
Wait a minute. There are going to be no Roner debates. There's going to be no bylaw.
No.
We don't do that. It's done by our central committee. Honestly, even for our conventions, the only business we'll ever really do is a presidential candidate. These are more pep rallies and places to come, to be together with our colleagues and network and talk about ideas and what's working and what's not working, and have a few drinks and enjoy
There will
ourselves.
be no dilatory motions.
There you go.
No.
No drifters.
Although the use of the word dilatory is always welcome, I think.
I don't think I've heard that once. Have you heard that once, Peter?
No, not one.
If it's dilatory? Nobody bothered me for an agenda. Like, not even once has anyone called me 3 weeks before a meeting and been like, Jen, where's the agenda? Like, we just don't do that.
So some particulars of the event. It's going to be on May 23rd through the 26th. Monday is the end of that. The Memorial Day is the 26th. It's at the Houston Airport Marriott over by, is that Hobby Airport, IAH?
No, IAH is
The International?
Houston International.
Okay.
Galactic, sometimes we say. It's on the north side of the town.
It's an
But as
then,
Jen pointed out, there is a really good tram system in the airport, so you don't have to rent a car or anything else. Just go straight from your plane to the tram to the hotel. Don't go outside. Houston's terrible in May.
Yeah. It's basically at the airport.
I was in Texas.
It's basically at the airport. I walked from the hotel to my flight.
Well, there you go.
I bypassed the tram because it was only one tram stop anyway. So I just, walked to my flight from the hotel. And
you didn't get picked up by mosquitoes there in Houston?
It's a tunnel. No, it was an indoor walk. I didn't go outside.
Oh, there you go.
You
Bonus.
So, if you're interested in the Space Center tour, I believe that will be on Friday. Saturday will be more the day of learning, and I think the Sunday will be, more of the volunteer activities.
Awesome.
So, and there's, you can buy the whole package and get the whole gambit, or there's a la carte where you just do what you want to do.
I went to the Space Center for the first time this past April. My brother lives in Huntsville, north of Houston, and I was visiting him for the eclipse in April. Some of you might have seen that. And afterwards, my wife and I daughter made a side trip to the Houston Space Center, and it was a lot of fun. We went inside the space shuttle, and I'm old enough to be a real Apollo program nerd, I guess you would call me. I was very, very into the Apollo program when it was happening, and so it was very cool to visit the Space Center. And they're an equal opportunity Space Center. They also had a Falcon 9 rocket on display.
Oh, man.
And that was very cool also.
My super into all of that stuff, and Houston's the only one that we haven't been to. We've been everywhere, and that's the other piece of this that I want to mention. I would bring my kids to this. I mean, I've been in political events where I would not bring my children. I absolutely would feel comfortable bringing my teenage son down to Houston with me, with this crowd, and feel safe. So I think that's worth mentioning.
My very last thing I have to say, then we should do the quiz. There's a building in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Peter's probably familiar with it. It's actually the county jail, but it has a big orange band about it. It's very tall. That was supposed to be NASA's headquarters, and that's what Kennedy had set up. But after Kennedy was killed, Johnson said, well, we're going to put the headquarters in Texas. And that's why it's in Clear Lake. All right, let's do the quiz, Dave.
Let us do the quiz. So CNN weekly news quiz. It was on Friday, the 28th. So everything that's happened this weekend is not part of the quiz. So we'll see how we do on this one. All right. Context clues. I can't remember what this guy's name is.
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal. That's it.
Or they call him the Internet Daddy.
The Internet Daddy. Nice. And then a portrait of Trump. I think he was not happy with this thing.
He was not happy.
All right. Question number 1. Top members of President Donald Trump's cabinet recently sent a detailed operational plans and other likely classified information about U.S. military strikes in Yemen to a chat group that included a journalist. What app did they use? WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, or Facebook Messenger?
I think we already answered this during the podcast.
Telegram would have been especially hilarious, though.
It would have been.
Telegram is controlled by the Russian government.
Yeah. but it was Signal. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Scooby-Doo villains. We're being ruled by Scooby-Doo villains. Question number 2. At a time when the Pentagon is looking to slash its budget, President Trump wants to ensure there's still funding for one of his top priorities. What is the project called? Golden Arches, Golden Gun, Golden Eye, or Golden Dome?
Golden Shower.
Oh, God.
Wow. Dan,
I
that's
don't
going to
know.
earn you a trip to the gulag, brother.
Straight to Gulag. Straight to Gulag.
Right to jail.
Straight to jail.
I don't know this.
Oh, Sean,
don't
that's
I'm
know.
going to guess Golden
back
Dome.
in the day.
I would guess the dome, but I have no basis for that guess.
I'm thinking dome as well because it's
It's
if we're
about
gonna do
his
anything.
toupee. If it's about his toupee, it's a Golden Dome.
We're
Daryl
Daryl
says
says
Golden Dome.
All right, let's do it.
Right.
Correct.
All right.
Trump's Golden Dome project would create a defense system capable of protecting the United States from long-range missile strikes, much like Israel's Iron Dome.
Are you going to do anything against shit coming from Canada?
Yeah.
They have
those poutine missiles.
Didn't Ronald Reagan already do this? It sounds very
SDI.
SDI. Yeah.
All right, question number 3. Which famed French restaurant recently lost one of its Michelin stars? Georges Blanc, Miramar, La Tour d'Argent, or Menagerie?
Je ne sais pas.
It's Georges Blanc.
All right.
All right.
Je ne sais pas.
Correct.
Okay.
Georges Blanc, the world's longest-standing Michelin-starred restaurant, had boasted a 3-star rating since 1981. They lost one of their tires.
So I read 3 newspapers before I get out of bed every morning. That's why I know this stuff, not because
You should be here for the quiz more often.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know the last one though.
Question number 4. Actor Pedro Pascal said he felt violated when paparazzi photos revealed which secret about him? His high school nickname, his highly caffeinated coffee order, his habit of dipping French fries into milkshakes, or his inability to throw a frisbee.
It's got to be either milkshake or frisbee, in my opinion.
If it's the milkshake, he should be ashamed of himself. That's awful.
I think that's the one that's the most
That's
shameful,
actually a big thing down here, or at least down in the South. Dipping your fries into a Frosty from Wendy's is a big thing.
That's a thing.
It is a thing. My wife likes doing it. I'm not down with that. It's not my thing, but my wife loves it.
Oh, I'm going to guess that, but I don't know. I have no base. Once again, I have no base.
James says frisbee.
Frisbee.
I would also be pretty embarrassed about that, and it wouldn't surprise me because Pedro is a very manly man in appearance, but I don't think he ever did the hippie learn to throw a frisbee well.
Oh, see, Daryl says French fries and a Frosty is so good. I don't know. That's
the Alabama in him.
Yeah.
Daryl, it's wrong.
All right, let's do frisbee. No, incorrect. It's highly caffeinated coffee order. Last of a star would like a little bit of privacy after photos revealed his insanely strong beverage order at Starbucks of 6 espresso shots and on the side of the cup.
I don't know who this guy is, but he felt violated by this. He's got other issues.
I don't think somebody orders this.
This is called first world problems, kids.
Yeah, that's a very first world problem.
He has 2 pieces of work that are superb. The Mandalorian on Disney, and then Last of Us on HBO. And they are both excellent. All right.
Yeah, don't worry about being wrong on that one, James. None of us knew that one. Question number 5. The United Airlines flight from Los Angeles to China had to turn around and make an unscheduled stop in San Francisco recently. For which reason? A passenger attempted to open an emergency exit. One of the pilots forgot his passport. The plane's in-flight entertainment system malfunctioned, or smoke in the cockpit.
Smoke in the cockpit.
Fire in the sky. Um,
No.
Is that your answer?
That is not my answer.
Oh,
I,
Daryl says pilot forgot passport.
I think it's the passport. Actually,
I would be shocked if that were true.
it's
I have a
dumb enough
friend
to
who,
be true.
the reason why it would be
2025.
shocking to me is that you don't have to leave the airport, and so you don't need a passport. And I mean, I guess it's true. I have a friend who is a PA and has worked for some crazy wealthy people. She got on a flight once, and they were flying to Switzerland. She's like, "Oh my God, I forgot my passport." And her boss at the time was like, "We don't need passports. Rich people don't use passports." And they landed there. They did not need a passport.
Well,
I saw this article and I did not click it, but I would also guess.
All right.
I mean, the thing that gets me on this one though is they started in Los Angeles. So if you left your passport behind, why'd you stop in San Francisco? It's the only thing.
Because it's on the way.
You know,
the Great Circle route. Actually, San Francisco's on the way to China from LA if you take the Great Circle route.
Yeah. All right, let's do that one.
Correct.
Wow.
Although the unexpected delay threw a wrench in her plans, one passenger said she appreciated the pilot's honesty. Because I'm figuring once they landed, they would have to get off the plane. They wouldn't be able to like turn around and fly back or anything.
You don't need your passport in the airport. You need it to leave the airport.
Well, if they are, because pilots, much like truckers and other people who fly commercial stuff, have to
make him a passenger on another flight flying back somewhere else.
It may just be a regulation that you can't be in an airline either as a deadhead or.
I think this is a lack of creative thinking.
Probably.
Interestingly, on this topic, my sister just came back from Costa Rica, my sister and her wife, and they were over Cuba, closing in on Miami when Starship blew up over Florida.
Could they see it?
They had to be diverted to Cancun, where they were not cleared to land. So they had to sit on the tarmac for 4 hours until all the burning spaceship fell out of the sky.
Well, that's disappointing.
And they were able to, resume their trip.
Yeah, that's disappointing. I mean, you go to Cancun, you get a little extra sun and fun.
They're on the tarmac, but and that's another thing. Just another commentary on these crazy times. Like, why are we letting billionaires blow up space shuttles and active flight camps? Like, why are we doing this?
Right. Only NASA is allowed to blow up spaceships with astronauts on them.
When NASA does it, they do it from Florida so that it's like out over the ocean, not like over the islands in Florida when it comes from Texas.
Over the Gulf. Over the Gulf. Yeah. When it was the Gulf of Mexico, we never had spaceships blowing up over it. Now they have the Gulf of America.
Only the Gulf of America.
They're dropping like flies.
Gulf of America. All right, question number 6. An oil painting of Donald Trump will soon be removed from the Colorado State Capitol after the president said it was what? Pretty dreadful, pretty painfully dull. I mean, these are all pretty accurate descriptions here. Perplexingly dingy, or purposely distorted.
I don't think the president could say the words perplexingly dingy.
I agree. I think that the only one of these that looks like the president could have said that was pretty dreadful.
Or painfully dull.
It's painfully dull or pretty dreadful. I kind of like.
It's pretty dreadful.
It's pretty dreadful. Yeah,
I don't think dull. Yeah, I don't think dull is a descriptive phrase either that you would use for a painting. At least the Donald Trump would use for a painting. Right.
Well, dull.
I'm both distorted. I think that he was unhappy with the way he looked.
Right. Now, well, maybe that's.
Yeah.
So
the idea of paranoia and the claims of persecution. The purposefully distorted feeds into his claims of being persecuted.
His victim narrative.
I think we should go with the guess.
Pete,
they say I agree.
Nice
job.
Nice one.
Nice job, guest.
Trump described the painting, which was unveiled in 2019, as purposefully distorted. No, I mean that looks like him.
Looks
Yeah,
like him.
a little bit. It's a little fat in the jowls, but
Not quite
Yeah, a
orange,
little fat in the
honestly.
jowls, but maybe he is fat in the jowls in the right light.
maybe he didn't get his redo his MMR. I wonder if he did. That's a fascinating question.
I'm actually just asked my doctor to test me to see if I'm still immune because I'm worried about
Yeah.
it.
Okay. I mean, are you of? You're not. I don't think you're the right age, Jen.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not. I think that if you're born before
68.
1956,
So I had to get it.
yeah,
I'm 67. So I redid
no.
mine. Although,
I mean, I had the vaccine way back when, but I just worry being in a hospital. I would like to be tested just to make sure that I've got
Yep.
immunity.
fair.
Yeah, I mean, I got mine in like either the Ford or the Carter presidency, so it's been a while.
My son, with his first MMR shot, he was just a little toddler. He spiked 104-degree fever for a week, and it was awful, but it was still better than having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, it does say on there that 1 out of a million people will have an allergic reaction to it. So, that means 300 people in America, but it's not fatal. Doesn't cause autism.
I mean, he had a bad reaction to it, and I missed a few days of work because he couldn't go to daycare with a fever, and he was crying and sad.
Wow.
But it's much better than going blind or any of the other
People forget. Go ahead, Peter.
I got my mumps and rubella immunity the old-fashioned way. I got
Nice.
mumps and I got rubella.
Oh,
That's how we did it back then.
It's funny because the CDC considers everybody born before 1957 to be immune because you had measles. That's how prevalent it was.
Yep.
You were exposed to it.
Measles, mumps, chicken pox, we had them all.
I had the chickenpox the old-fashioned way too, but I also had shingles. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's terrible.
That's brutal. That's brutal.
Yeah.
I got all the vaccines. Like I got the shingles vaccine. I've got. I mean, I'm like
pneumonia.
I saw my wife get shingles, and I'm like, absolutely not. And I've seen people with the ones where it gets into the eye and stuff.
Oh,
like,
you don't want that. You don't want
that.
the shingles. You don't want ocular shingles. You definitely do not want that.
Yeah. Everything else, plus of course, circle, circle, dot, dot. Now you've got your cootie shot. Nobody else knows that one?
I remember that one.
Never heard of that.
I mean, that's
the cootie shot.
That was
I
on my
remember the
board
cootie shot,
certification.
but I don't remember that rhyme at all.
Really? I remember it. I don't think I've ever heard my kids say it. I'll have to ask them when we get off the call if they know that one.
All right, question number 7. A rock on display for 20 years at an Australian high school hid which secret in plain sight? A time capsule, a treasure map, the signature of Queen Victoria, or a cache of fossilized dinosaur footprints?
I'm gonna guess.
I haven't heard this story, but I would say the dinosaur is probably the most likely of the 4.
I don't think Queen Victoria ever went to Australia.
I don't either. Or she never got stoned either. Oh, James says time capsule.
James has already been wrong once.
I was thinking treasure map, but I don't know.
I think it's the dinosaurs. I think it's
So, Massachusetts on the banks of the Connecticut River has some great dinosaur footprints.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a trackway with, these big 3-toed footprints, and then there's another one, 50 feet away, and you realize how big the dinosaur was.
Wow.
I've been to dinosaurs in Colorado.
Yeah, there's some down in Texas as well. Let's do the dinosaurs. That's correct.
All right.
Discovery represents one of the highest concentration of dinosaur footprints per square meter ever documented in the country.
The footprints I saw, there was only room for one in a square meter.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty
Must have been small.
that one.
These must be little mini dinosaurs.
Yeah. Question number 8. A group of Midwestern women who regularly use marijuana say it makes them better moms. What do they call themselves? Mary Janes, pot parents, canna moms, or ganja gals?
I'm going to guess
I call them my kind of ladies.
I kind of like Mary Jane's, but
I'm missing out. I wish
I
I
have no
liked.
knowledge.
I'm going to guess Canamoms because of the push away from using
Mary Jane and
marijuana
yeah.
or anything other than cannabis as as a term. That's
All
just
right.
a guess, though.
I kind of like ganja gals, though.
James says ganja gals as well. And you know, this is a group of at least former libertarians. We should know this shit.
Midwestern women. What would you got to think? You got to get in the mind of a Midwestern woman.
I mean, I'm a Midwestern woman.
Okay.
AJ says Canamoms.
AJ says Canamoms.
I'll have been Pennsylvanian for 15 years, so I don't know.
All right. I think
Let's
we
try
got
Canamom.
here. Yeah.
Correct. The Canamoms say they use
Canamom.
marijuana to cope with the stresses
All
of
right.
life and motherhood.
All right.
Rock on. You do that.
I think the Rolling Stones wrote a song about that, right? Mother's Little Helper.
No, actually, Mother's Little Helper was Librium.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Technically speaking, the little yellow pill in the Rolling Stones song was chlordiazepoxide, Librium.
Interesting.
It wasn't what caused like the flipper baby stuff, was it?
No, that's thalidomide.
No, that's thalidomide.
Thalidomide. That's right. All right. Question number 9. Dairy farmers in France are turning to which of the following as an alternative to chemical treatments for cattle? Acupuncture, massage therapy, ginseng root, or yoga?
Is acupuncture. I was talking.
I would love to see cow yoga, though. I mean,
Right.
It's oat yoga.
downward moo.
Right. No, I mean there is a cow position in yoga, and so I think the cows have downward facing human.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh my heavens!
All right, Jen says acupuncture.
Yep.
Yeah.
Acupuncture farmers.
I went to college in France, and I was talking to a friend from France about it. So that's how I knew.
Interesting.
I think I'd seen the article this week about that, and you know, if it works, it works better than using.
I
If
tried
it works better than using chemicals.
back and it didn't help, but some people swear by it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like, a lot of things like chiropractic.
Yeah.
A lot of people swear by that, and I have a lot of people that were like, "It's the biggest scam ever." So I don't know.
I mean,
It could work a
one
different
thing that is,
way.
yeah,
It could
the
be
one thing
that
that-
if you don't give more milk, we're going to poke you again with the needle. And then,
Principles of persuasion.
all right.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it could be a
Guys, I'm from a dairy farming community. Cows aren't that smart.
Right. If you don't like the needles, let me tell you about the abattoir and what happens to the hamburger on the cows. The one thing I'll say though about acupuncture, working, chiropractic, stuff like that, the thing that is still almost inexplicable is how powerful the placebo effect is. It has results that are just unbelievable. I have a friend who works for a company called Quintiles, specifically because all they do is they are hired to oversee other companies' pharmaceutical testing. And they're like, the standard being better than a placebo is so hard to beat. Most drugs don't make it.
Question number 10 for a 9 out of 10 week. A mysterious glowing spiral is spotted over Europe after a recent SpaceX launch. What caused the phenomenon? The experiment on the International Space Station, a reflection cast by solar panels near the launch site, the rocket exhaust interacting with the atmosphere, or we're not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
That one's the funniest, but it's not the right answer. The right answer is the exhaust.
yes.
Yeah.
It's spinning rocket exhaust interacting with atmosphere. Yes.
Yep. According
Not
to the
bad.
UK
9 out
National-
of 10.
Yeah.
The only one we got wrong was the one James screwed us on. So thanks, James.
Rolling right under the bus. So this is our last show at the 10 o'clock hour. We're going to an 8 o'clock hour because I'll be going into the office starting in May.
I think we should change our story. We should say there's so many people who are watching the show now that
we have to be in
we have to
early.
go into prime time.
There we go. We're doing prime time.
Mail is hard to keep up with.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly. I mean, the thing is, Joe is essentially a walking thirst trap. Our ratings have gone through the roof since he's been around, and but
Really not me.
But his fan base cannot stay up past 10 o'clock. So,
wow.
We're my age, so you know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So 8 o'clock next week. We'll find something to talk about, I think.
Sounds cool.
Anybody have any suggestions about what we should talk about next week?
60 is the new 40, but 9 o'clock is the new midnight.
Yes. We're going to have a great thing to talk about because April 2nd is Tariff Day, Tax Day.
You're right.
It's Bitcoin Reserve Day. All of those things should be done by then. So we'll probably be looking at a whole new economy starting on next Sunday.
You should get a tax lawyer that we know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
That will be interesting.
Yes, a tax lawyer.
We also have the Canadian election coming up during the month, so we'll be doing a show.
Well, and Tuesday is the Wisconsin election.
The Wisconsin Supreme Court election, which Elon Musk is trying to buy, much like he did in Pennsylvania during the general election. So, same tactics.
Yep, $1 million.
I did.
All right. Oh, there is a tax lawyer named JBH.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent tax lawyer.
You could get him on here to talk about all of that. That would probably be wonderful.
That would be interesting.
Absolutely.
Selling.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Peter, for joining us today on the Political Deep Dive, talking about the Liberal Party. We really appreciate you coming on.
Hope to see some of you guys down in Houston.
Yeah. And come on out.
Yeah.
And enjoy the company and have a good time learning about the Liberal Party and learning how to do good things in your community. So we'll talk to everybody next week, and I hope everyone has a great week.
All right.
You take care.
Good night.
Say good night, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Gracie's up there.